Now, before I say anything else about the panel itself, I want to pause for a moment because one of the cast members who appeared there, someone whose voice meant so much to this show and to this fandom, is no longer with us. And this panel was one of the last times we ever saw him alive on camera. I need you to know that I see that. I feel that, and I don't take it lightly. Let's take a moment of silence to honor this beloved voice actor. I will watch the time. Now, what this panel did and what it didn't do still matters. Because what happened on that stage didn't just reflect who was in the room, it reflected who was erased from the room. Here's what actually happened at the LA Comic Con Jimmy Neutron Anniversary panel on December 3rd, 2022. It opened with cast and crew introductions. Fans were invited up to audition as characters for fun. They read a retro episode script live on stage. Then they held a short Q&A. There was no official announcement, no revival reveal, no forward momentum. It was billed as a reunion, and maybe for some people it was. I watched the video, start to finish, and here's what I didn't see. There was no mention of the fans who kept it alive. There was no mention of my campaign that brought tens of thousands of people together in 2011, long before anyone else got in the game. And despite promises, my petition with over 10,000 signatures was never shown. Not on a screen, not on a banner, not even as a footnote. My name wasn't said, my work wasn't honored, and the revival movement I built, the one that helped to make this panel possible, was treated like it never existed. Now, for the record, I didn't grow up with Jimmy Neutron. I watched it in college. I was already an adult when I fell in love with this show, with its heart, its humor, its potential. I gave more than a decade of my life trying to help it get the closure it deserved, and in total, I gave the fandom itself almost 20 years of my life. This wasn't just a cartoon to me, it was my identity, it was my passion project, and I was the one who kept going when nobody else did. So when that panel happened and it skipped over all of that and it rewrote the narrative without any mention of what came before, I didn't just feel left out, I felt erased. And the strangest part is the audience was mostly in their 20s. They didn't know the history. They couldn't have known what was missing. But at least a couple of the people on that stage did, including the few that signed my petition. They knew. They saw what I built, and they let it disappear. That's what still keeps me up sometimes. Not the silence, but the choice. While this was called a reunion, they didn't quite say who it was for. They didn't say a word about the decade that came before. Didn't name the fans who carried it through the silence. Didn't even hint that a revival campaign ever existed. There were no mentions, no nods, no thank you for keeping this alive. Not even a single sentence that acknowledged the people who never stopped fighting for this show. They had the spotlight, they had the stage, they had the chance to honor all of it, but they said nothing. It wasn't just a missed opportunity, it felt like a deliberate erasure, because most of them knew. They saw it, they were tagged in it, and a few of them shared in it. They watched it happen in real time. But when the lights came up that day, they acted like none of it ever happened. That's not a reunion, that's a rewrite. And I just sat there watching, waiting for one word, one nod, one thread that tied it all back, but it never came. And when the panel ended, I wasn't just heartbroken, I was invisible. I tried to convince myself it wasn't that bad, told myself maybe they just ran out of time, maybe the cast had no say in what made the panel, maybe someone else handled the planning and it just slipped through the cracks. But when the footage went up online, I realized, no, this wasn't an oversight. It was exactly what it looked like. A reunion that left out the people who actually held the show together. A celebration that never once acknowledged the revival efforts that kept the flame alive. Not even in passing. Not even in the smallest way.